the thing with, and this is always the struggle with anything by the government, is all the stuff that it does is incredibly important, but it's also behind the scenes, and you don't know that it's gone wrong until it goes wrong catastrophically. You know, the federal government manages everything from managing from the national defense to managing nuclear waste. And you sort of find out that the nuclear waste management went wrong when you have to evacuate the city of Hartford. Until then, you hope that it does the job right. And so that is it. But I think the first tipping point is about to hit, right? Because we'll see the huge increases in premiums for people who are purchasing health insurance on the exchanges. We'll see SNAP payments being cut. We're starting to see the air traffic control infrastructure break down. I think, as with many such things, you don't feel it until you feel it a lot. And we're probably just a few weeks away from people feeling it a lot.
Speaking of feeling it a lot, let's talk about these SNAP benefits, because the Trump administration is now saying they will fund partial payments to folks. Logistically, it sounds like a nightmare. Any idea how they're going to actually implement that? And when can folks expect checks? Do we know?
No, we don't. I don't think they know. And in fact, since it's clear from the legal rulings that they do have the authority to actually make full payments, because there are other reserves of funds they can draw upon. This is sort of another of the Trump administration's kind of escalating attempts to inflict pain as a way of forcing Democrats to the table. But just given the geographic distribution of where SNAP payments go, they're kind of inflicting pain on their own voters more than they are on Democratic ones. And I think Democrats at this point are just so fired up and so angry, so enraged. I have never observed the Democratic Party with this level of anger before, that I'm not sure that inflicting pain on Democrats is going to get them to the table. If anything, it may just stiffen their resolve.
Gautam, you say that Democrats have never been so enraged. I can't find a Democrat anywhere that is saying anything to anybody of any magnitude. Where are the Democrats? Where is the Democratic Party? I don't see it.
So there is no single voice for the party. And, I mean, like, if you think back 8 years ago, right? Like, who was the single voice who was the single voice for Democrats then? Barack Obama is starting to reemerge on the scene, but it can't be him. A lot of this stuff will get sorted out during the primaries, but we're still a year and a half away from that really kicking off in full too. I think a lot of what you're seeing is people campaigning to be that, right? Governor Pritzker is doing that. Gavin Newsom is doing that. You're seeing a lot of people who are jockeying for the first lanes to be the voice of the party, but there won't be one. And I think, Republicans are going to do everything they can to make Zohran Mamdani the face of the Democratic Party. I think they should be very careful in that play, that if they get what they want, they may not like the results there.
Gautam, just talk to us about what you think it's going to take to bring these two sides back to the table. Because right now we see air traffic controllers not going to work because they're not getting paid. We're going to have one of the busiest travel weekends coming up with Thanksgiving if this thing drags on. So what is going to bring these sides together?
So I think there's the combination of three things that are going to happen. One is the huge increases in the premiums, which are going to, they're going to hit a lot of people, but they are particularly going to hit Trump people in red states and Trump voters very, very, very hard. There's going to be the SNAP payments, which is going to be cuts, and then eventually their end, which is going to be a huge problem. And as you said, the basic sort of air travel in the United States starting to come to a halt. The combination of those three things are going to put a lot of political pressure on people. But if you look at from the Democrats' perspective, I think it's very clear. What people say, sort of, the Democratic Party is incredibly unpopular, and it is. But it is incredibly unpopular because its own voters are criticizing their leadership for saying you are not fighting hard enough. So the political incentives for Democrats are to hold the line. I think the question is, at what point does the level of sort of pain and dysfunction reach a thing where, the irony here, and I've said this to you guys before, right, is the Democrats are trying to get Donald Trump out of a political problem of his own creation, which is these huge increases in insurance premiums are going to be politically very bad for Republicans. And Democrats are saying, like, hey, we want to fix this because it's really, really bad, across the board for everybody. At some point, I think Trump is going to fold on that issue because his own voters are going to say, like, hey, these payments are unsupportable. But I do think there's also, yeah, no, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, we've got just time left here. Virginia, New Jersey governor's races, how indicative are they of potential midterm leanings for this electorate? Are you putting any special weight on these two races?
I'm paying a lot more attention to New Jersey than Virginia. Spanberger's going to win in a walk in Virginia. I mean, between it being a Democratic year and Doge and the shutdown, like, Virginia is not friendly to Republicans right now. But New Jersey's really interesting and sort of really critical because we'll get a snapshot sense of if the polling data on the collapse of Republicans among Hispanic voters is actually real. The other things I'm going to look at is the margin in New York, because I think a lot of what we're seeing is sort of this need for, like, young candidates on the Democratic side. I'm not sure that Mamdani's appeal is as much, ideological. In fact, I very much doubt it's ideological, as he's a supernova political talent and he's young and energetic in a way that, say, is probably, if he wins by a lot, it's a really good indicator for, say, Raj Goyal is running for comptroller in New York, or even Seth Moulton in Massachusetts, who are the same sort of next generation of Democratic leaders who are saying enough is enough with the Democratic Party gerontocracy.